Welcome to Supply Chain Partners TV and podcast, where we discuss innovative solutions delivered by our expert members at Supply Chain Partners. Our expert members can help you to build a high-performing business and supply chain. Their innovative solutions can help you to improve and transform all digital, physical, people and process aspects of your business and supply chain. Hi, I'm Dr. Sharyn Grant, the founder of Supply Chain Partners. I've worked in logistics and supply chain management for over 30 years, and I specialise in strategic supply chain performance management. Let's now introduce our member. Fulfillmate is a 3PL and distribution business that specialises in e-commerce fulfillment and helping Australian businesses to export to the USA and scale up. Fulfillmate offer a wide variety of services including e-commerce fulfillment, transport and distribution, co-packing, rework and kitting, go-to-market strategy and brand development, warehousing, and international freight forwarding. You can learn more about Fulfillmate on Supply Chain Partners. With us today is Ben Carman, the co-founder of Fulfillmate. Welcome, Ben. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Sharyn. Thanks for having me.
Would you like to provide an overview of Fulfillmate?
Yeah, sure. So Fulfillmate is a 3PL fulfillment and distribution business. We're based in the United States, but we have sites two in the United States, one in Canada and one back in Melbourne, Australia. We are actually owned by Australians living in America. So it's quite a point of difference. And we've fallen into a little bit in some ways, helping Australian businesses, e-commerce businesses and product owners sell their products into the USA.
Well, that's excellent, Ben. You have an excellent business. Now, it's important for exporters and importers to know exactly what's happening in every stage of their supply chains. So what are the biggest challenges in managing transparency in international supply chains?
Yeah, well, overall, managing supply chains is extremely challenging, no matter what product or part of the world you're in. And there's just so many moving parts in supply chains, and the complexity continues to increase. And I think a few examples of that are very speed in communication, not only the expectations of the speed of communication, there's a need and a requirement or an expectation from customers that every single minute of every single day their product being tracked, all the way through. And so when you've got that dynamic, there's delays, there's things that happen along the way. There's invariably times where that is a challenge to manage. And then managing multiple handover points is another one. It's sort of linked to the speed and communication. Is quite often there's multiple parties that need to be involved to manage, a supply chain, even the most basic one. And so the more complex the product, the more complex the movement, the more locations it's going through, the more carriers that you need to complete that task, particularly across border and sometimes across multiple borders. There's a real challenge of trying to bring transparency and sort of tracking, for lack of a word, into that. And sitting across all of that, I guess, is having the right technology or having, systems and partners in place that you can easily access that kind of information.
Right. So you've identified quite a few significant challenges. So how does Fulfillmate manage transparency across multiple sites in multiple countries?
Yeah, well, it's an ongoing challenge. As I said before, we're in the US, Canada, and Australia. So not only just time zones is a challenge, but one of the tools that we use is our order management, warehouse management system that we have in place across all of our sites. And we've found that having one system where clients can view their orders, view their inventory is a huge advantage over dealing with other 3PLs that will be using partners and other sites. And even some, either through acquisition or through other reasons are using different systems. And it also means that anyone in our business at any one time, just talking about that communication I mentioned earlier, has visibility in dealing with the client. So they may not know the ins and outs of the detail, but if someone reaches out and it's an Australian time and there's an American inquiry, they can at least see in the system what status that order is at. And we found that to be really helpful as we set up remote teams across multiple countries. We also have the philosophy that we want to work with great partners and great clients. We want to work with people with aligned values, aligned performance expectations as well, that we know that we can meet. And as an example, we manage international imports from Australia to the US. We have really close relationships with a number of forwarders like Natrio Logistics, 20 Cube, and then locally like Best Bay Logistics. And we've really been able to develop those relationships, and as examples of having really strong communication, a really flexible approach, and being customer centric, because those three things we find is really important, particularly as it relates to transparency, and then also having a speed of communication as a mindset. So customer demands are increasing. As I said, they're really high, and we're operating across multiple platforms and communication channels. We've got clients, we're using email, we're using WhatsApp, we're using text message, we're using Slack, we're using Teams. And so we need not only people in our business to be really responsive and customer centric, because just having that mindset, we find drives a lot of transparency, because people want to proactively communicate with clients, not just wait for them to call.
Well, you've mentioned quite a few important areas there, like visibility and communication and relationships. Now, increasing speed and customer satisfaction are highly important. So what key benefits are achieved through an in-country logistics model?
Yeah, so I think it's very important in most countries, I would say, to have some degree of in-country presence. But I think what we've seen over living and operating in the United States versus even somewhere like Australia is really important. The speed in which we can respond with stock on the ground just can't be matched if you're operating from another country. And it's even difficult to cross borders from the US into Mexico and Canada, let alone trying to get it all the way from Australia or from Asia through the customs process through to the end customer without having any issue. Another part that we have is we understand the market conditions, and we have the right partnerships and structure in place to execute efficient supply chains and support our clients as they need to. I mean, this is a very common question that potential clients, particularly in Australia that we deal with, who are looking for that decision to make on whether they should ship customer orders from Australia and just grow organically as they need to, or what point they should go to the USA or even into Canada. We could probably do a whole nother podcast on that, but I think even one thing that always comes up is returns. So thanks to the likes of our friends at Amazon, Walmart and others, the USA has a really strong returns culture, I would call it, much more so than I've seen in Australia. And there's this whole attitude of, well, we'll just get it. We'll just try it. If we don't like it, we'll just ship it back because it's easy. But you imagine if you're shipping from Australia and you don't have on the ground support, we've seen that it creates a lot of headaches, those brands just trying to manage that return chain, and even extends to not just physical logistics, but it's customers will look for the returns process. And if they see that they need to pay to ship it back to Australia and they're not going to get, refunded or get an answer on whether they're going to get a refund for 2 or 3 weeks, they're more than likely not even going to buy it in the first place. There's a number of reasons why having a partner like us on the ground is critical.
Well, there's a lot to consider. And like you've mentioned, it is excellent having you on the ground over there in the US. So what types of companies do you help?
So we help predominantly e-commerce businesses or product-based businesses with their fulfillment and distribution. And that can be managing all the way from factory, managing the import process into local distribution and shipping. But we also help marketing agencies, freight forwarders, and other logistics companies who have clients that may be, say, in Australia, but that client has an interest or wants to expand or has tried to expand to the US or Canada. And that particular company doesn't have the on-ground, they don't have the desire to be set up in the US. They don't have the capability, but they want to service the client. So quite often the forwarders and partners that I mentioned before, they'll see that as a value add to their business. So it's both the brands with the product, but it's also other partners that are helping them as well. And in terms of the kinds of products, just to touch on that as well, we're shipping, or we're warehousing and shipping sunglasses, apparel, clothing, swimsuits, to dresses, to t-shirts, kids products, games, sort of hardware, hinges, pool fencing, bedding, bed frames, supplements, hair care, skincare. So pretty much we'll get into anything.
Well, that's a wide variety of products, and that's also many relationships that you also work with across the supply chain. Let's now talk about your clients. Would you like to share a case study to explain how you help your clients at Fulfillmate?
Yeah, sure. So, we've helped a lot of Australian businesses, but in terms of speed and transparency, there was a Sydney-based company that came to us and they were actually already set up with a 3PL in the US and Canada. And they were really struggling with communication, the time zone difference, the different business cultures, and they were trying to grow their brand. They were quite successful in the beauty and skincare industry in Australia and were set up with some retailers. And they really found that they were getting held back by the service they were getting. So when they came to us, it wasn't just a question of, can you do these services? You're Australian, let's just go with you. They wanted to really also know if how they had set up was actually correct. And so we actually stepped back and said, okay, where is the product made? How are you getting into the US? How much stock are you going to have? What kind of order volume? Where is it going within North America? They're selling a lot of product into Canada as well. And we actually put together a whole process around in which warehouses they should be in to really suit their best speed to market and cost strategy of what they wanted to complete. And a big piece of that was this transparency around being open and honest, being able to call us at any time, us understanding that on a Sunday afternoon, it's Monday morning in Australia, but it's Sunday in the US. And so that was a big part of it. But then being able to overlay the analysis on, okay, well, you should be here. This is how we can get your orders to Canada. This is how we can get your orders to the East Coast. I think really helped them to sort of restart their business strategy in the USA. And after saying that they were taking a few hits and lower volumes, they've now, been with us probably 6 or 8 months and starting to really kick goals as we're coming into the end of the year. And as a reward, we're now taking over their fulfillment in Australia as well. So we do all 3 countries. And a big part of that was the transparency of the system and being able to see all of that activity in one place and talk to us as one business.
Well, that's an excellent case study. So what are the key services that Fulfillmate offer?
Yeah, so the key services we offer is the standard e-commerce fulfillment, storage, distribution, and including the international freight forwarding. But I think a few of the services that make us a little bit more unique than the traditional 3PL or fulfillment center is the value add services that we have. And some of the examples of that are we'll work with clients on customized packaging that we can help source from local suppliers. We do co-packing, rework or kitting into gift boxes, influencer kits, and those sorts of things. But the other thing that we're passionate about is helping businesses grow. And so we offer some advice and some help with go-to-market strategies and brand development in terms of distribution channels. And even a big part of the US e-commerce world is Amazon. And so we also help clients list on Amazon. We build their stores for them and manage that for them because it's quite a different beast than what it is in Australia.
Well, that's excellent, Ben. That's an amazing service offering and such an extensive offering as well. I'm sure that you're offering services that are just not offered anywhere else. Well, thank you very much, Ben, for joining us today from Fulfillmate.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sharyn, today. It's been great. We just love being able to help Australian businesses in particular with their journey to the US, and we really focus on the communication and trying to solve problems for our clients as they export to the USA and try and sell more.
Thanks, Ben. Well, that concludes today's episode about increasing speed, transparency, and customer satisfaction when exporting to the USA with Fulfillmate. You will find all their contact details listed below. So join us again at Supply Chain Partners TV and podcast, where we meet with our expert members at Supply Chain Partners to discuss key business and supply chain topics, issues and trends, including logistics, supply chain management, technology, and much more. We welcome you to subscribe to this Supply Chain Partners channel, and we look forward to you joining us again in a future episode.